Hey, what's going on guys? Arekkz here, and today we're going to be checking out the Xbox Elite Series 2 controller. I am super looking forward to this because I still to this day, or at least I did until they sent me this one, I still to this day use the original Xbox Elite controller because it's just a fantastic controller, right? I appreciate when it comes to controllers, everybody's got their preference, right? It may be based on where you like your analog sticks placed. It might just be size, it might be based on your hand size. But I really like the Xbox controller, right? I still use it for most of my games, whether I'm playing on PC or on Xbox, and the Elite controller was just a fantastic model, right? Loads of customization options, super comfortable, and they've said supposedly this one's even better. So, today, we're going to be checking this out. Now, I do want to give a massive shout out to both Xbox and Argos for very kindly sponsoring this video. Of course, if you guys want to grab this yourself, you can check it out, linked to Argos down below. They've kind of become like a really good place to pick up a lot of your gaming stuff. So if you guys are looking for some stuff just in general, then we're going to dive in. We're going to take a look at this. We're going to unbox it, test out some of the different features, maybe kind of give it a little bit of a run through in Call of Duty because, you know, while the Elite controller, the paddles, the customization, is something you can use for like a ton of different games, but a game like Call of Duty kind of synergizes really nicely with something like this, right? So we're going to dive in, mess around with some Modern Warfare as well, and just in general, put it through its paces. So, let's take a look. Now, of course, if we start off on the outside of the box, you of course have the typical Xbox Elite, like kind of sort of premium look to it. All black is kind of my color scheme, right? But I like it when this sort of like all blacked out box, looking very sleek, Elite Series 2 logo on the side. You then, of course, have a description of what is inside this on the left-hand side of the box. And on the back, you then have a breakdown of the controller. But we're going to take a look at this in much greater detail. So we jump forward and we actually jump inside. The very first thing you will see is the carry case. Now, this in itself has always been a really nice part of the Xbox Elite controller. It's just a nice premium case, so if you want to carry it around, save just throwing the controller in your bag, it's got a nice protective hard shell, it's got that nice material all over it. But one of the new really cool things about this case versus the original one is if you spin around the back, you'll actually see there is a USB-C port. Now, this controller is USB-C charged, but the cool thing about it is you can either charge it by plugging directly into the controller, or if, say, you wanted to just pack it away somewhere, you can then plug it directly into the case, and there's a cool magnetic mount inside that you can then put the controller on, and it charges from there. So that's actually kind of cool. You could just sort of zip it up if you're not necessarily going to be going anywhere, or you finish using it for the day, put it in the case, leave it charging, and just know that then when you get up and you just, you know, pull the cable out, you're good to go. Either way, if we then open up the inside, you can of course see the controller itself. From the top, you've got that nice mesh compartment if you want to put the charging cable in there. You have the controller in the center, and then down below you have some of the additional parts, because of course the Xbox Elite controller, for those of you guys that maybe haven't necessarily seen the original one, then the main thing about this is there's a ton of customization, right? You can customize the analog sticks, the triggers, the paddles at the back, the D-pad. So down below you have a place to store all of that. Now, of course, you know, there's some empty parts here because some of the parts are already in the controller. But to kind of go over some of the core points of this, you of course have your interchangeable analog sticks. So there's various different ones. You of course have the two default ones that are on the controller to begin with. They're your standard ones. You then have two classic control sticks, and you then have one tool and one dome one. So depending on, you know, sometimes if you want some more precision when you're aiming, especially if you're playing things like Call of Duty and stuff, then, you know, you might want that sort of taller analog stick. It actually kind of gives you like a nice bit of precision, which is pretty cool. So you can then just change these around. They're super easy. You don't need any like special tools. They just come off and then magnetize back on. So really easy to swap on the fly. So it's, you know, you can kind of just mess around with these and find out what you like the best. Some people prefer convex, some people prefer concave, so there's a lot of customization there. Also underneath these, if you do want to adjust the tension on the thumbsticks, there's also a little tool that you get with the controller. You can then use this to tweak the tension depending on, you know, how you prefer your analog sticks to feel. You might want them to be a little bit more firm. You might want a bit more kind of looseness to them depending on, say, whether you're playing like shooters versus like fighting games. You know, it's kind of examples. On top of that, you also have the triggers, which are, I mean, triggers on the Xbox controllers have always been really nice, but this one you can of course go and change between 3 different trigger styles. If you want the ability to press the trigger all the way in, maybe you're playing, say, like a racing game and you might want that for, say, the accelerator, then obviously you can leave it on there. Meanwhile, if you're playing something like a shooting game and you really want that fast hair trigger, then you can flick the switch to adjust how far you can press it. The default one is all the way in. You then got a kind of halfway one, and you've then got a really fine hair trigger, so you basically just need to tap it almost like it's a face button, and you're then detecting the press. Of course, on top of that, you also have the interchangeable D-pad. So you have the sort of faceted one you see here, this kind of circular one, or you have the more conventional D-pad. That's my personal preference. I kind of just prefer like old school D-pads. But again, depending on the way that you're playing or the kind of games you're playing, sometimes that round D-pad can have its uses. I have kind of played a few fighting games before where, you know, the ability to just sort of have a slightly more rounded D-pad so you can just, you know, pull off those quarter circles actually does kind of work out. But again, personal preference. Take it on, swap it out, it's really that easy to do. Of course, on top of that, you do also have the option for the default profile and then 3 custom profiles. So depending on what you want, you know, your button configurations, you can of course remap certain buttons. You have the paddles on the back. So, you know, in a game like Call of Duty, if you want to be able to do things like, you know, jump shots, drop shots, you can of course map some of the buttons for things like jumping and crouching that would normally be on the face buttons that would then normally require you take your thumbs off of the analog sticks. You can then map that to the paddles at the back. So you can then get a little bit more, you know, control precision in your matches. And then of course you can then map these buttons differently. So you can then save those to your profiles. And then at the press of a button, you can simply swap between the profiles. Additionally, one of the cool things is you can actually use the Xbox Accessories app to customize the buttons for other things as well. So if, say, for example, you like recording your gameplay and you want to map, say, like a button press to like a typical voice command, like record that or take a screenshot, you can actually do that as well. So you've then kind of got that convenience. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do. Now, once it's fully charged, it will supposedly last for around 40 hours on the kind of rechargeable battery, but given your kind of typical play session, especially if you just have it so that the case is just hooked up and plugged into charge, and you just drop it down and leave it charging, then you're probably going to be kind of, you know, maintaining that charge pretty much all the time. Overall though, the controller is incredibly comfortable. You do also have that nice rubberized grip that wraps all the way around it, so you have that sort of nice firm grip, so even when you're getting into those like intense gaming sessions, your hands are getting a little bit sweaty, you're still going to be pretty good. So, you know, we might as well give this a little kind of run through, kind of jump into a game of Call of Duty, just kind of give this like a little quick test and just sort of see how things play out.
Ready for gas. Enemy personal radar in the air. Hostiles, Arekkz. You've lost the lead, soldier. Hostiles. Enemy precision
So there you have it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. That is a look at the new Xbox Elite Series 2 controller. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. I am super excited to kind of give this a run through its paces. I'm pretty sure it's going to be super solid. I mean, the last Elite controller has served me up until this point, so I have no doubts that the Series 2 controller is going to keep me going. Either way, I'm going to be testing that out much more extensively over the coming weeks and months, but I am definitely happy with sort of some of the new additions, some of the new kind of options, the customization options you have. So yeah, definitely something to check out. Either way, let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Let me know if you guys are going to be picking this up. And of course, if you do want to, don't forget you can click the link to the Argos website in the description box down below and check that out. Massive shout out to both Xbox and Argos for very kindly sponsoring this video.